Breaking news! Mounting evidence points to a Wuhan lab leak as the origin of COVID-19. The White House unleashes a bombshell targeting China and Dr. Fauci for accountability. Was the pandemic a preventable disaster? Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind the global crisis. Breaking news! White House officially releases bombshell article supporting lab leak theory, suggesting COVID-19 may not be of natural origin, but rather stemmed from a Wuhan lab accident, directly pointing the finger at Fauci. The article admits that nearly all of the Biden administration's responses to the COVID-19 pandemic were nonsense, specifically criticizing Cuomo, EcoHealth Alliance, and other responsible parties. Its key points include: the virus possesses a biological characteristic not found in nature. Data shows all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans, contrary to previous pandemics with multiple spillover events. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene-altering and organism supercharging at inadequate biosafety levels. Researchers at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, WIV, were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at the wet market. By nearly all scientific measures, evidence of a natural origin would have surfaced by now, but it hasn't. Additionally, the geographic location shows that the initial COVID-19 outbreak occurred near the Wuhan Institute of Virology, just 7.5 miles away, where gain-of-function experiments were conducted under low safety standards. Early researcher infections WIV researchers exhibited COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, predating the global pandemic outbreak. No evidence of natural origin. Despite extensive investigations, no definitive natural or intermediate host has been found to support the natural origin theory. U.S. funding to Wuhan lab EcoHealth Alliance, led by Peter Daszak, used U.S. taxpayer funds to support gain-of-function research at the WIV. HHS actions. After discovering violations, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, has suspended all funding to EcoHealth and initiated a permanent debarment process. NIH oversight failure. The National Institutes of Health, NIH, failed to properly oversee high-risk research, posing threats to public health and national security. Obstruction of investigation and document falsification. HHS and EcoHealth Alliance repeatedly delayed responses, provided incomplete information, and even falsified documents, severely hindering congressional and oversight investigations. The book, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, has been repeatedly used by public health officials and media to discredit the lab leak theory, while Dr. Fauci leveraged it to promote the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally. 5 years ago today, Dr. Fauci stood at the White House podium, citing the fraudulent proximal origin paper as evidence of the virus's animal origin to publicly contradict President Trump, while pretending not to know the paper's authors. In reality, that fake paper was commissioned by Fauci himself.
Group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequences there and the sequences in bats as they evolve, and the mutations that it took to get to the point where it is now is totally consistent with a jump of a species from an animal to a human. So, I mean, the paper will be available. I don't have the authors right now, but we can make that available too.
On January 26 this year, the newly appointed CIA Director John Ratcliffe declassified the latest assessment report on the origins of COVID-19, stating that the coronavirus is more likely to have leaked from a Chinese lab than from an animal. This was one of Ratcliffe's first decisions after taking office on Thursday. Ratcliffe, who served as Director of National Intelligence during Trump's first term, has long supported the lab leak theory, claiming the virus likely originated from a leak at the WIV, located just a 40-minute drive from the Huanan seafood market where the first cluster of cases emerged. Moreover, as early as May 2023, then-Senator Marco Rubio released a report providing substantial circumstantial evidence that the coronavirus leaked from a lab in Wuhan, China, rather than spreading from nature. The 328-page report traced the WIV's efforts to research and manipulate coronaviruses before the virus swept through the central Chinese metropolis in the fall of 2019. It says the lab and a U.S.-funded grantee wanted funding in 2018 to create a coronavirus clone with a furin cleavage site, a distinct feature that was found in the pandemic-causing virus. On September 21, a Wuhan resident known only as Su died from what a Chinese biostatistician believes may have been COVID-19, the report said. Rubio stated, "After years of censorship, there is growing evidence that some type of lab accident is responsible for the COVID-19 pandemic." The White House's latest bombshell article further underscores the Trump administration's stance. It seems intent on holding all responsible governments, institutions, and individuals legally accountable for the immense humanitarian and economic losses, potentially demanding substantial compensation. This shouldn't come as a surprise. According to available data, as of May 2022, U.S. COVID-19 deaths reached approximately 1 million. From the pandemic's onset, deaths neared 100,000 by May 2020, surpassed 150,000 by July 2020, hit 920,000 by February 2022, and ultimately reached the 1 million mark. The federal government passed several bills to address the pandemic, with approved budgets including the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act. In March 2020, $2.3 trillion was allocated, including direct payments, $200 per person for those earning under $75,000 annually, $500 per child, business aid, etc. In April 2020, Congress approved an additional $484 billion focusing on small businesses and healthcare institutions. FEMA allocated an extra $100 million in 2021 for state and local governments for public health and emergency management. In total, federal direct allocations exceeded $2.8 trillion, not including state or other non-federal funds. The actual total spending may be higher due to loan guarantees and indirect support. Overall estimates suggest the economic loss to the U.S. from COVID-19 is around $16 trillion, half $8 trillion from economic shutdowns and ongoing spread impacting GDP, and the other half health-related, including premature deaths, long-term health damage, and mental health issues. Additionally, a 2023 Nature study estimated economic losses from February 2020 to May 2022 at $4.4 trillion, excluding broader indirect losses. The $16 trillion loss is 4 times that of the 2008 financial crisis. As early as April 2020, Missouri sued the Chinese government, alleging inadequate early pandemic response led to economic losses, demanding substantial compensation. On March 7, 2025, marking 5 years since the WHO declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, Missouri federal judge Stephen Limbaugh ruled on the state's lawsuit against China for pandemic damages. The case was heard on January 27 in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri. Limbaugh stated in his ruling, "The court finds that Missouri has provided evidence satisfactory to the court to establish the liability of the defendants under Count 4 of plaintiff's complaint to the state of Missouri. Therefore, the court awards a judgment against defendants jointly and severally in the amount of $24,488,825,457 plus post-judgment interest." He held that China and related entities concealed knowledge of the virus in the pandemic's early stages, using the time to hoard protective equipment, bearing undeniable responsibility. The defendants in the lawsuit included the People's Republic of China, the Chinese Communist Party, China's National Health Commission, Ministry of Emergency Management, Ministry of Civil Affairs, the Hubei Provincial Government, the Wuhan Municipal Government, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Since China sent no representatives to the trial, the judge issued a default judgment concluding the 5-year case. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey called the ruling a historic victory. "This is a monumental victory for Missouri and the United States in the fight to hold China accountable for unleashing COVID-19 on the world. China refused to show up, but that doesn't mean they can escape the consequences of causing unspeakable suffering and economic destruction. We intend to collect every penny by seizing Chinese-owned assets, including farmland in Missouri," his office stated, noting potential collaboration with the Trump administration to identify and seize Chinese assets. The office added, "We look forward to working with the courts and federal and state partners to identify assets to seize if the CCP chooses not to pay. Those assets do not need to be located in Missouri. They can be anywhere in the U.S. We intend to collect on this judgment and look forward to the process. While we have not yet collaborated with other states on this litigation, we encourage other states to pursue accountability from the Chinese government and seek justice for victims." On March 11th, Chinese embassy spokesperson Liu Pengyu stated that China absolutely does not accept the so-called default judgment and defended the Chinese government's pandemic response. This is the first U.S. domestic ruling on COVID-19 accountability, with profound and far-reaching implications. Similar lawsuits have emerged in Florida and Texas, accusing the Chinese government of delayed responses leading to the global spread of the pandemic. Amid the peak of the U.S.-China trade war, the White House's sudden and clear stance may hint at further actions the Trump administration could take against China, including handling China's U.S. Treasury holdings $760.1 billion as of October 2024, the lowest since 2009. Clearly, Trump holds many powerful cards yet to be played, and the ball is now in Xi Jinping and the CCP's court. However, President Trump appears confident, stating,
"Oh, we're going to make a deal. We'll have a deal. I think we're going to make a very good deal with China."
What are your thoughts? Feel free to leave a comment with your unique insights and suggestions. Thanks for your watching. We'll see you next time.